All right, welcome to lesson number 7, which is called dimensional analysis. Here's basically what dimensional analysis is. You start with one measure of units. So in real life situations, units are ways we measure things. For example, you measure height in feet or inches, and you can measure liquid in gallons or liters or ounces, and you need to be able to convert, go between all of the units. Okay, so for example, if you look at this question, it says, I'm driving 60 miles per hour. How fast was I going in feet per minute? So it's like they want to change miles to feet and hours to minutes. And to figure that out, we go through this process called dimensional analysis. Okay, here are the steps. It says step 1, write what I have as a fraction. So what I have. So this morning, I'm driving on the highway at 60 miles. Per means divide, so per 1 hour. Okay? Step 2, write what I want as a fraction. Well, at the end, what they want is how fast was I going in feet per a minute. So at the end, I want feet per minute. Okay? And step 3, I have to use the equivalent fractions to multiply what you have to turn it into what I want. Here's what's important. They have to be equivalent. They have to be the same thing, because you don't want it to become a new number. You want it to be the exact same thing. You still want it to be 60 miles per hour. You just want it to look different. You want it to look like feet per minute. So that means I have to keep everything equal the whole time. So here's 2 pieces of information. First, it's okay to multiply by 1, because this times 1 is still this, right? So I'm good as long as I multiply things by 1. It's not changing anything, okay? Here's the second thing that's important to note. If I times it by a fraction, as long as it's the same on top and bottom, it's still 1. Right? Because 5 divided by 5 is 1, or 10 divided by 10 is 1. So as long as I'm timesing it by something that's the same on top and bottom, I'm just timesing it by 1, and that doesn't change anything. So if you look at the back of this page, you have this thing called a dimensional analysis unit conversion tool. And they give you a lot of things that equal each other. You don't have to memorize this. You could always use this tool. But here's something, like for example, an hour is 60 minutes. Those are the same. A minute is 60 seconds. A day is 24 hours. A year is 365 days. So these 2 things are the same. Okay? Over here, an inch is 2.54 centimeters. A foot is 12 inches. A yard is 3 feet. A mile is 5280 feet. Okay? So these are just conversions, these are equal statements. These mean that they're always the same. Which means, and I'm just going to write this here, 1 hour divided by 60 minutes is 1. Because it's the same on top and bottom. 1 hour is the same thing as 60 minutes. So trying to divide it, it's just 1. I could also switch it. I could say 60 minutes divided by 1 hour, still 1, right? Because it's the same on top and bottom, it's just 1. And I'm always allowed to multiply by 1, which means I can multiply this guy by one of these 2 fractions and not change it because it's still 1. I can multiply this guy by any of these written as a fraction because it's just 1. Okay? So, for example, I'm in miles. Or I'm in hours down here at the bottom, right? 1 hour. At the end, I want it in minutes. How can I turn hours into minutes? Well, if I look, I know something about hours and minutes. I know that 1 hour is 60 minutes. So I'm going to write one of these 2 fractions next to it so I can turn it into minutes. Which one do I use? Well, remember if something's the same on top and bottom, it's just 1. So we can cancel. So right now I have hours on bottom. I'm going to put them on top. And what that does is it allows me to cancel out the word hour because it's the same on top and bottom. Okay? But if I look at my equivalency statement, 1 hour, so I'm going to put 1 hour, is 60 minutes. And now I'm going to cross out the word hour because it's on top and bottom. And now my fraction is in miles per minute because hours went away and it's in minutes now. Which is good because that's what I want on bottom. Okay? But on top I want feet. And right now it says miles when I look at this. So I'm going to times it by another fraction. Hopefully to get rid of miles. So if I'm trying to get rid of miles, miles is on top. I'm going to put my miles on the bottom. So looking at my little tool, do I know anything about miles and feet? I know something about feet and inches. Oh look, here's one on miles and feet. 1 mile is 55,280 feet. Okay, which is actually why we are called the Mile High City, or we're called like 5280. You know you've heard both because we're a mile above ground. We're 5280 feet above ground. So it's 1 mile. So I'm putting a 1 next to that mile. Was 5,280 feet. So now the word miles crosses out because it's on top and bottom. So now when I look across my fraction, 60 times 1 times 5280 feet, so I'm in feet, on top. On bottom is 1 times 60 times 1, and it's in minutes. Now I have it in feet per minute. So I just multiply across my top. So 60 times 5280, well first times 1, but that's still 60, times 5280 becomes 316,800 feet. Then on bottom, 1 times 60 times 1 is 60. This still isn't my answer though, because the question was how fast was I going in feet per a minute. This says feet per 60 minutes. Well, to figure it out, I just divide. So I take my top, 316,800 divided by 60, and find out that I am going 5,280 feet per minute. And for per you can just do like the little division line because it means divide. Okay, let's try another one. Write what I have as a fraction is step 1. So I can eat 1 pound of cake in 5 hours. So 1 pound in 5 hours. Okay? The question is how many ounces of cake can I eat in 10 hours? Okay, so over here at the end, they want to know how many ounces in 10 hours. Okay, and that's what they want to know by the end. So, thankfully here, 5 hours. Hours is what I want to end at the end. So that's good. But I don't want it in pounds at the end. I want it in ounces. So I'll take my little tool, and I'm like, okay, do I know anything about pounds and ounces? Here's ounces in cups. Pounds. Look, pounds and ounces. 1 pound is 16 ounces. So, I'm going to do an equivalent fraction. Pounds is going to go on bottom, because over here it's on top, and I want the words to cancel. Remember, 1 pound was 16 ounces. So if I multiply that right now, the pounds cancel, because it's on top and bottom. 1 times 16 is 1, and we're still in ounces, because the word pound canceled, but ounces is still on top. On bottom, 5 times 1 is 5, and the word we have is hours. So I know 16 ounces per 5 hours. The question was how much can I do in 10 hours? Well, to turn that 5 into 10, I have to times it by 2. But remember, it's only okay to times things by 1. So if I'm timesing the bottom by 2, I have to times the top by 2, because it keeps it the same. And 2 divided by 2 is just 1 anyway, because it's the same on top and bottom. So then 16 times 2 was 32 ounces, and then 5 times 2 gave me the 10 hours. So I figured out that I can eat 32 ounces in 10 hours. Here's a third example. It says my dog drinks 5 cups of water per a day, which means 1 day. So 5 cups per 1 day. And at the end, they want to know how many kiloliters in a week. Okay? So I'm going to take day to week because I know that there are 7 days in 1 week. And remember, days is going to go on top so that the word days cancel, and this one here was on bottom when it started. So now that the words days cancel, my bottom's in weeks, which I want, and I'm happy. Now I need my cups to turn into kiloliters. If I go to my conversion tool, do I know anything about cups and kiloliters? I know the only where on this page I'm even seeing the word liter is right here. And that tells me something about quarts. So, kilo, I will explain what the word kilo means in a second, but kiloliter, we're still talking about liters. And then it comes from quarts, or equals to quarts. Can I find quarts anywhere else on the page? Look, I have quarts and cups. I have quarts and gallons, but quarts and cups is better because I'm talking about cups. Okay? So I know I can change my cups into quarts and then my quarts into liters. So, I'm at cups. I'm going to times by the fact, and I'm going to put cups on bottom because it was on top. And if you look one more time, 4 cups was 1 quart. So it's 4 cups and 1 quart on top. Okay? Well, next, since I can cross out the word cups, because it's on top right here and on bottom right here, I'm in quarts. I don't want to be in quarts. I want to be in kiloliters. So then the next thing that I see is that I can change quarts to liters, because 1.06 quarts. So 1.06 quarts. And quarts is going on bottom, so they can cancel because it was on top before, was the same as 1 liter. Times, and I'm going to actually need more room, so I'm going to cross this out. And I'm going to just kind of wrap beneath. Times, I'm in liters now, but the question was in kiloliters. So if you look at this 3rd page, this is another tool. This tool explains a bunch of words. So prefix, this prefix is something that goes in front of a word. So for example, and I'm going to just start with deca. If you see decaliter, it means 10. 10 divided by 1 means 10 liters. If you see hectoliter, it means 100 liters. Because you see how that's 100? So hecto means 100. Kilo means 1,000. Mega means 1,000,000. Giga means 1,000,000,000. Tetra means 1,000,000,000,000. Or tera, I mean. Okay? And then in the other direction, if you see deci, it means 1/10. Meaning like, it's like a fraction amount of it. It's 1/10 of it. So a centimeter is 1 out of 100 meters. So it's like the decimal version. Milli means divided by 1,000. Micro means divided by 1,000,000. Nano means divided by 1,000,000,000. And pico means divided by 1,000,000,000,000. For example, kilometers. Kilo means 1,000, so it's 1,000 meters. Centimeters. Centa means 1 out of 100, so it's 100th meters. Okay? Which is the exact same thing as saying that there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter. Because if 1 centimeter is 100th, then it would take 100 of them to get a whole 1. Okay, and then over here, they listed all these abbreviations, because sometimes instead of the word inch, you'll see IN. And some of the times instead of the word foot or feet, you'd see FT. And yard is YD. Okay, so this tool, you can use this tool on any test and quiz as well to help you figure out the meaning of any of the abbreviations or any of the prefixes in front of words. So coming over here, I'm in liters. I want to be in kiloliters. So I'm going to times it by a fraction that has liters on bottom and kiloliters on top. The reason why liters was on bottom is because it's on top over here, and we want to cancel them out. And remember, a kiloliter, 1 kiloliter, kilo meant 1,000 liters. Okay? And so, now on the bottom, I have days are canceled, weeks are still there, canceled, canceled, canceled. So on the bottom I have them in weeks. And then on the top, canceled, 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 kiloliters is what's left. And if I multiply across the top, I have 5 times 7 times 1 times 1 times 1, which is 35. If I multiply across the bottom, I have 1 times 1 times 4 times 1.06 times 1,000. So on bottom, I have 4,240. Remember that it does say, does he drink per a week, not 4,240 weeks. So to figure that out, you're going to do 35 divided by the 4,240, and you'd end up with 0.00825 kiloliters per week. Okay, so quickly before we finish this out, I want us to add one more here. There is, on the worksheets, they ask you to go from meters to feet, and they don't ever tell you a conversion in the book, which is interesting. But here's what it is. 1 meter is 3.28 feet. So go ahead and add that one in there on that page.